also very bold. The lining was, it just had some issues sometimes. Kind of ruins it, just a little bit. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first video of 2024. In today's video, I am making a puffer jacket. So I have been doing this challenge called the 75 Hard Style Challenge, and I will talk about that a little bit more later. But pretty much every single day I get dressed to kind of see what my style is, what I like, what I don't like. And pretty soon in this challenge, I noticed that I do not have ample outerwear for where I live. So that inspired me to make a puffer jacket for this video. So I didn't really have a reference, so I kind of just made the pattern, did the design as you will see, and I hope that you like it. If you do, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow me on my social medias, and let's get into it. Hello, I am back. So for my first video of the year, I'm going to be making a puffer jacket. So I've been doing this thing called the 75 Hard Style Challenge, which is pretty much where you get dressed up every single day and you take pictures. So if you follow me on Instagram, you will see it. And it was created by Mandy Lee, aka Old Loser in Brooklyn. And the whole point of the challenge is kind of to like figure out what your personal style is, see where there's like gaps in your wardrobe, all of this stuff. And pretty soon in, I kind of realized that a big gap in my wardrobe is outerwear. So my biggest jacket is the Kid Super jacket that I made, and it's very big, like it's long, it's heavy, all of this stuff. It's also very bold. And I don't really have that many other big jackets. I think most of my like big jackets are jackets I've made, which isn't bad, but I just don't really have that many casual things. So that's why I'm making a puffer jacket. So it's going to be black, and I want it to be about thigh length, and there's actually going to be 3 layers to it, I think. There's going to be the outer layer, there's going to be the inner layer that I will stuff and like do the puffer design, and then there will be the lining. And the lining is actually going to be mostly, if I have enough, what I use for the Kid Super jacket, which is like a soft, like also pretty warm lining. So I don't really have like an exact reference, so I'm just going to draft a pattern, probably using like a little bit of a jacket that I already have, and then I'm going to start to cut out the pieces. Okay, I have all the pieces cut out. I just did the front and the back on one piece since I think it'll be big enough that it doesn't need to overlap any. And I just marked where I want the neckline for the front to be. And then also like, the front's gonna be 2 pieces, the sleeve and then the collar. This is all the fabric I'm going to use. So this is going to be the outermost, and I have a ton of this fabric. Shout out to one of my cousins because she gave me a ton of fabric, but that was really nice. And there's this blue and black. The black is cut like really strange, so mostly I'm going to try to use the blue, and if I need to use the black I can. And then there's this black that I used for the Kid Super jacket. So while this should be common sense, I'm still going to say it anyways. I'm going to make sure that I cut all of them on like the same stretch so they stretch enough, because one thing with the Kid Super jacket is the lining, I don't think they're all the same amount of stretch, but the lining was, it just had some issues sometimes. So I'm gonna try to cut them all in the same way, and yeah. Okay, I have all of the pieces attached to the like puffer lining pieces. So those are just the pieces that's where I'm gonna actually stuff it before I do the lining and when I sew the design. I attached them all wrong sides together. It doesn't really matter for like the inner piece, but I attached them all wrong sides together, and I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch all around. I think I said this, but I had a 1/2 inch seam allowance in the pattern to leave just so that part won't get stuffed, and when I'm like sewing it all together, I will be using that part to sew instead of things that are stuffed, hopefully, just because yeah, I felt like it would be a little bit much if I was trying to sew over like multiple stuffed pieces. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I only did 1/2 inch because I felt like 1 inch would be too much, because I don't usually give myself like a 1 inch seam allowance, so I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna sew those together and then I'm going to start the stuffing. I will come back to that point in a second. Okay, so I sewed the pieces, like the outside piece to the puffer lining. So now for the stuffing, I'm actually going to use scrap fabric and cut it down to stuff it, which I actually did similar to I think a Valentine's Day jacket I made a few years ago. So I have a ton of scrap fabric, so I'm gonna start going through some of the scraps that I even cut from these pieces, and then just start cutting them down really small. So eventually I can put them in to sew the puffer design. Okay, so the best system I've found so far is to cut down the fabric that I'm cutting into the stuffing into the size of this mat that I have, and then just cut out little squares from there. And I will say, I think it's taking a little bit of a toll on my rotary cutter blade. I mean, I've had this for a few years now, so I probably need to change the blade anyways. But I got one from the dollar store to try, and I also got a second mat in case I like use this mat to completion. Yeah, also, it takes a while. I knew it would, but I think that's the most efficient way, because what I was doing before was cutting it into strips and then cutting it down with scissors, and that just took a while, and it kind of hurt my hand after a while, because I want them to be small. And the reason why I got the other rotary cutter to try is because it feels like some of the cuts aren't going through as much, and I want it to like be as small as possible. Not as possible, but just so it can be malleable. So that's currently what I'm doing. When I'm done with the scraps from the pieces I've cut out, I will show you how much that is. It is an amount, but I don't think it'd be enough to do like one of the front or the back pieces. So yeah, but I'll show you that, and then just some of what else I'm using to cut fabric out of. Okay, so I think I found a better method to make the stuffing, and it's actually from a different video, so I'll link it below. But pretty much the girl in the video, what she does is she puts a pile of scraps down and she just kind of goes ham with rotary cutter. And I feel like it's a lot faster than doing piece by piece, but the only thing is I had to buy a second mat. I know I showed the dollar store mat that I got, but since it's not as big as this one, which I just got, it's hard to like put down a lot of stuff and just do it. So to be able to do more, I got a bigger one, and I didn't use my actual mat because, as you can tell by both the dollar store mat and this mat, kind of ruins it just a little bit. I will try, I'm trying to upkeep the blue one, and there's a way to like clean and help heal your self-healing mat, so I'll probably do that. The dollar store mat is probably done, but I already bought like a spare. So that's the downside of it. The other downside is I guess it can also maybe be hard on your rotary cutter, so I did buy another blade. And some of the pieces are bigger than I'd want them to be, but it is just so, every other method like cutting strips or just doing square by square has just been so time consuming that I was like, let me try this, and I feel like I've made a decent amount in like a shorter amount of time, so I'm gonna keep trying that method. This is the amount of stuffing that I have so far, so yeah. This is the amount, and this is mostly just the scraps from the pieces I cut. A few more. And so while I have a decent amount, it's probably enough for like 1 or 2 sleeves, or like 1 sleeve and the collar. I don't think it would even fill an entire side of the jacket, so there's still a ways to go. Okay, so I have like a bag full of scraps that are cut down. I don't know if it's gonna be enough, but I'm going to start with the sleeve because I figured I'm probably not gonna want to stuff it too much since I will have to sew through it, and I think that that might be a little bit of a challenge. So I'm gonna start stuffing the sleeves and see. And for the design, I'm kind of gonna do like a one line design. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like this little type of doodle I used to do sometimes when I'd be taking notes in class. So I thought that would be a cool one because I don't want to just do like a regular puffer design. Sorry, Lola's like trying to get into the bag with the scraps, so I had to just nudge her away. But yeah, I don't want to do like a regular puffer design, so I think I'm gonna try drawing that out with chalk and seeing if that looks good, and then stuffing one of the sleeves, closing it off, and starting to sew that. I have the design on. It's kind of fading a little bit, and I stuffed it some, not too much because I do want to make sure I can sew through it. So I'm going to sew the top closed, and then I'm going to start sewing down the design. Okay, I think I found the best method for sewing like the puffer design portion. So I don't remember what I showed before, but I know that I tried using chalk and chalk isn't working. And I didn't want to have to freestyle it, but unfortunately that's what I'm doing. When I did chalk with no pins, and all of the stuffing would just jostle around. So then I tried using chalk and like using pins to mark the design. That also didn't work, and I got lost. So what I've been doing is I sew up most, at least for the sleeve, almost all of the sleeve except for a wide enough hole that I can get my hand through, and that's how I stuff it. And with that, I try to make the stuffing as even as possible. It's not fully even, and there's definitely some parts that have like a little less stuffing than others. And then I pretty much pin a grid on the entire thing, so that way the stuffing can move around some, but it's not gonna like move around the entire piece. And then from there, I just sew and I kind of freestyle it. But I try to make sure that I leave the opening region for the end, so if I did need to go back in and like adjust the stuffing, I'd have that ability. And when freestyling it, I don't really map it out fully beforehand, but I kind of just try to see, because I don't overlap the lines. So it's pretty much, other than the fact that like I've had bobbins run out, it's essentially one line. So I just kind of see like where the other lines are and try to do stuff from there. I will say, I think for me, it's hard, but I think it's easier because I did used to do these doodles all the time, and so that's why like I can freestyle it, because I used to do things like this. But yeah, that's what I have found that has worked the best so far. Okay, I sewed all of like the puffer part design for all the pieces except for the collar, because I want to wait and do the collar after I construct it to make sure that it's the right size. I will say, I don't know if I gave myself enough seam allowance. I feel like I gave myself, it ended up being like the standard amount, so we're gonna see how that sews. So I wanted to serge it. I don't know if I'll be able to. Looking down because Blaze wants me to pet her and she just has her tail on my foot. Other thing is, with doing the grid pattern, actually two more things. With doing the grid with all of the needles, I have so many little cuts. I don't know if you can really see, if you can, well, I think you can see a few. I have so many. I think I have like at least 20 across my wrist, a few on my chest. So that was one thing that really sucked. Like, I just couldn't think of a better way to really do it, because for the most part it did hold a lot of it in place. And then also just how long it took. My shoulders are so stiff, so since I'm done, I'm like about to douse myself in icy hot, and just relax. But next I'm going to construct the jacket, and what I'm thinking for the lining, what I've done before in the past is attach each piece, like each lining piece, and then just sew the whole thing together. But what I'm going to do instead this time, which I think is how you're supposed to do a jacket, is make the lining separately, so kind of make almost like a second jacket, and then put both of those together. Okay, so before I start constructing the jacket, I'm going to add pockets, which I most definitely forgot about. So I'm just gonna add pockets like I kind of would. So usually I would connect each piece to the lining and then construct the whole thing. But since I'm gonna put the lining with the actual jacket, I'm going to do the sleeves, or not the sleeves, the pockets in the side seam of the jacket. So it will be between the lining. I don't think that is the best way to do it, but I don't think that like the way you should do it will work with mine. Like looking at this jacket, this has a lining and the pocket is kind of like a cutout in the front piece, and then there is pocket. I can't do that because number one, I didn't plan ahead. I forgot about the pockets until I was like, oh my gosh, I for sure want pockets. And number two, I just don't know if that would have gone well with like the puffer style. So I'm just gonna do the pockets so they'll sit in between the lining. But I'm hoping that, I'm a little concerned that it might be like kind of bulky or weird, but I'm hoping that like since it's on the inside that you're not really gonna see it and it'll be fine. So I'm going to cut out those and start attaching everything. You can't really tell, but I have the lining pinned at the sleeves and at the edge of the sleeves and around the sides. So I'm gonna sew that down, and then I'm gonna sew down the bottom. Blaze just ran out to like scare Lola. Okay, I did a little stitch at the neckline, so now I'm going to sew the design on the collar, and then I'm going to attach the collar to the jacket. Okay, for the collar, I left it long enough that I could fold it over, so it's gonna hide the edge of like the top of the jacket. So I'm going to sew this down now. Okay, the last thing that I did, but I didn't show it, is I sewed on sewable snaps to close it. I didn't do a zipper because I didn't really want to, and I think it would have been too bulky. So yeah, that's how I finished the jacket. Thanks for watching. I really hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on my social medias. I really like how this turned out, and I say that because this took a lot of work. It was physically hard, and it was so worth it because I do really like how it turned out. I feel like there were like blood, sweat, and tears. I didn't cry, but I did get a lot of cuts from doing the design and was definitely physically challenging as well. but I do think it was worth it. I think it'll be a great like neutral jacket to incorporate in my wardrobe, and I can't wait to style it. So until next time, bye guys.